I'll never forget the sound of that knife hitting the counter. It slipped from my hand the moment I heard my daughter-in-law whisper in the hallway, her voice sharp as ice. After Thanksgiving, we'll kick him out. My knees nearly buckled. I was standing there carving a 20-pound butterball turkey, gravy simmering on the stove, grandkids laughing in the living room. And just like that, in the middle of what was supposed to be a family holiday, I realized my own son and his wife were plotting to throw me out of the only home I had left. Before we continue, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. I'm John, 61, retired electrician. IBEW card still tucked in my wallet like a relic of another life. I lost my wife 7 years ago. Cancer. We built this house together, 3-bedroom ranch, brick front, a backyard maple tree that turns fire red every October. It's in Appleton, Wisconsin. Property taxes run me about $6,400 a year. I scraped and saved, worked overtime, even pulled a few side jobs wiring basements just to pay it off early. 2 years ago, I got the payoff letter from the VA loan, neat and official, with only my name on it, John R. Whitman, a single man. So when I heard that whisper, my first instinct wasn't anger. It was shame, embarrassment, like I was some burden they needed to get rid of. I tried to steady my hands, poured the gravy into a Pyrex bowl, forced a smile when my granddaughter Lily climbed onto the chair and begged me for a slice of pumpkin pie. But inside, my chest was on fire. Looking back, maybe I should have seen it coming. Last week I spotted a sticky note on the fridge. Call First Midwest Title. Quit claim? I didn't think much of it. Figured it was one of their apartment work calls. My daughter-in-law, Kayla, manages leasing. She's always on the phone with title companies. But now, standing in my kitchen, her whisper still ringing in my ears, that note suddenly felt like a warning flare I ignored. Then there was the way my son, Matt, had been circling around the subject of what's next for me. Casual questions like, Dad, you ever think about downsizing? Or wouldn't a condo be easier, less snow to shovel? I brushed it off. At 61, I still run my own snowblower, an old Toro I've had since '09. I might be a widower, but I wasn't dead weight. As the evening rolled on, I kept noticing little things. The way Kayla looked around the house like she was already redecorating it in her head. The way Matt's phone lit up on the table with an email preview that read, Quit claim options. Mobile notary, $95. My heart sank when I caught that. It wasn't small talk anymore. It was a plan. And then the toast. We were all at the table. Lily was giggling with cranberry sauce on her chin, and I was refilling water glasses. Kayla stood up with her wine, smiled too wide, and said, Starting January, we'll make some changes around here. Everyone clapped like it was some cheerful announcement. My fork froze in my hand, because in my mind I could still hear her whisper, Kick him out. That night, after the dishes were piled up in the sink and the house grew quiet, I sat alone at the kitchen counter. My wife's photo, her holding a Packers mug in Lambeau back in 2004, stared back at me from the fridge door. I whispered, They think this house is wasted on me. I picked up the VA payoff letter again, my name, no one else's. I read the words until they blurred, and then a memory crept in. My neighbor Doug, an old realtor, joking just weeks ago, If family drama ever gets ugly, John, you just call me. I've got a sold sign in my truck, I laughed at the time. Tonight, that didn't feel like a joke anymore. The next morning, I poured my Folgers into a chipped navy mug, sat by the window, and watched the first snow cover the yard. I tried to convince myself I was overthinking, but as I pulled on my boots to check the mailbox, I heard the faint hum of voices in the driveway. It was them, Matt and Kayla, standing by their car, and the only words I caught, carried by the cold air, were Kayla's again. Friday morning, we'll tell him then. My blood turned to ice, because Friday morning was only 2 days away. That night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the hum of the furnace filling the silence. Every creak in the house felt heavier, like the walls themselves knew I was living on borrowed time. 2 days. That's all they were giving me. 2 days before my own son and his wife told me I was done. At 6 in the morning, I pulled out the Rubbermaid bin from under my bed. That's where I kept every piece of paper that mattered: property tax receipts, utility bills, my Navy discharge papers, even the refinance documents I signed in 2015 after my wife passed. I flipped through them one by one until I landed on the warranty deed. It was stamped in bold: John R. Whitman, a single man. Not and son, not and daughter-in-law, just me. I carried that deed to the kitchen table, poured myself a mug of Folgers, and stared at it until the steam disappeared. My mind kept circling back to one question: how do you betray a man who raised you, fed you, gave you a roof over your head? And then I realized they didn't see me as a father anymore. They saw me as an obstacle. By mid-morning, I dialed a number I hadn't called in years. "Caruso and Denton, LLP, a cheerful voice answered. "This is Linda Caruso." I explained everything: the whisper, the sticky note, the quitclaim email. My voice cracked, but Linda didn't flinch. "John, that house is in your name only. Wisconsin's a community property state when you're married, but this was yours before, and you redeeded it after your wife passed. They can't touch it unless you hand it over, and you don't sign a damn thing without me reviewing it. Got it?" Her words were a lifeline, but then she paused. "If you want to protect yourself for good, you should consider a ladybird deed, enhanced life estate. You stay in the house as long as you're alive. Full control. Sell it, mortgage it, whatever. And when you pass, it goes straight to whoever you name. No probate, no interference." I sat there in silence, tracing the rim of my coffee mug. The idea sounded safe, final, but it also meant making choices about who deserved that house when I was gone. And right then, I couldn't picture Matt's name anywhere near it. Later that afternoon, I stepped outside to shovel the first layer of snow off the driveway. Doug, my neighbor, wandered over with his green Packers. Beanie pulled low. "Heard the family came by yesterday," he said, leaning on his shovel. "Everything all right?" I forced a smile. "Family's family, right?" He smirked. "Well, if they ever stop acting like family, you know who to call. Got a sold sign in the truck right now." He tapped the side of his Chevy Silverado like it was a joke, but his eyes told me he meant it. That evening, Matt called and asked me to meet for brunch the next day. Perkins on College Avenue. The way he said it, casual but clipped, made my stomach twist. The next morning, I slid into a booth across from him and Kayla. They ordered pancakes and coffee. I ordered nothing. Halfway through the meal, Matt pulled a manila envelope from his bag and slid it across the table. Inside was a quitclaim deed, blank but waiting. "Dad, it's just paperwork," he said, voice soft, almost rehearsed. "We're refinancing to cover the bills. You'd still be here. We'd just handle the rest. You wouldn't have to worry about taxes anymore." Kayla leaned in. "And we'll pay you $500 a month like rent." "It's fair." My jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth would crack. Rent, in my own house. I wanted to throw the papers back in their faces, but I didn't. Instead, I folded them neatly and slid them back into the envelope. "I'll think about it," I said. My hands were shaking, but my voice came out steady. When I got home, I opened the garage and pulled down a dusty box from the shelf. Inside was an old open house sign from when my wife and I first bought the place in 2003. I ran my hand over the faded red letters and thought about Doug's "sold" sign sitting in his truck. That night, I packed a few of my wife's things into a U-Haul box. Not because I was leaving, but because I wanted to remind myself this house had a soul. It wasn't a bargaining chip. It wasn't a payday. It was my life. I told Matt I'd give him an answer after Thanksgiving. But as I lay in bed, the words kept echoing in my head. "After Thanksgiving, we'll kick him out." And then, like fate had lined it up, I overheard them again. Through the thin winter air, standing in my own driveway, Kayla whispered to Matt, "Friday morning. That's when we'll do it. My pulse thundered in my ears. Friday morning. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly know, was that I had already signed something too. By Friday morning, my hands no longer shook. Something inside me had snapped into place, like a switch I didn't even know existed. The fear was gone. All that was left was a cold, steady calm. Matt and Kayla thought they had me cornered. They thought their timeline, Friday morning, was some secret plan. What they didn't realize was that I'd already moved 2 steps ahead. The night before, I drove out to Caruso and Denton with my deed tucked under my arm. Linda walked me through every line of the Ladybird deed, her glasses perched low as she explained, "This document keeps you in control for life, John. You can live there, sell it, even rent it out. But when you die, it transfers instantly to whoever you name. No probate, no interference," I signed, the pen scratching across the page like a nail in a coffin. And I didn't write Matt's name, not after what I'd heard. I walked out of that office lighter, almost giddy, until I stepped into the hallway and nearly collided with Matt and Kayla, walking in with a notary. They froze when they saw me, the manila folder in their hands. "Dad?" Matt's voice cracked. I smiled, patted the envelope. "Already signed something," I said, and walked past them. The look on Kayla's face, like she'd just bitten into something sour, burned itself into my memory. The next day they tried again, invited me to brunch at Perkins, quit claim, deed in tow, pitching me the idea like it was some favor to me. $500 a month, rent in my own house. I kept my cool, slid the envelope back across the table, and said I'd think about it. Inside, though, I was boiling. That night, I opened the garage and stared at the old open house sign I'd saved from 2003. The corners were chipped, the paint faded, but the letters were still bold. For sale. I thought of Doug, my neighbor, telling me he had a sold sign in his truck, ready to go. A crazy idea started to bloom, one I couldn't shake. I spent Saturday in quiet preparation, hauled some of my wife's keepsakes into a U-Haul storage unit over on Richmond Street, climate-controlled $89 a month, took pictures of every room, every piece of furniture, documenting it all in case things got ugly, even filed a no trespass letter with Linda, just to have it ready. It was tedious, but every step steadied me. By Sunday, the plan had sharpened in my head. If they wanted to treat me like a tenant, like some obstacle in their path, then I'd show them just how powerless they really were. Monday morning, 8:05 a.m., Doug planted the for sale sign in the snow-dusted yard. Within hours, the listing went live. $349,900. Appleton's market was tight, inventory low. By noon, we had 2 offers at asking price, and by 3 o'clock, a cash buyer from Nina was ready to close in 7 days. I stood at the kitchen window, coffee mug in hand, watching the white sold sticker slap across that sign. The red letters screamed at the street like a declaration of war. That evening, Matt stormed into the house. "What the hell is this? You're selling the place." I didn't flinch. "It's my name on the deed, son." "Always has been," Kayla's eyes flashed. "We live here, too. You can't just—" I cut her off, calm and sharp. "You don't live here." "You visit." There's a difference. I slid a letter across the table. Notice of termination of occupancy. 30 days. Month-to-month agreement. Drafted and signed. Linda had made sure it was airtight. The room went silent, the only sound the faint whir of the furnace. My son's face twisted, torn between shame and rage. Kayla looked ready to explode. I hated myself in that moment for not feeling guilty. But then I thought of Lily. Sweet, innocent Lily, who had no part in any of this. My heart cracked all over again. Kayla leaned forward, voice low and venomous. "You'll regret this." I leaned back, folded my arms. The only regret I have is raising a son who thought he could throw his father out like trash. The words hung in the air like smoke. That night I replayed it all in my head. The whispers, the sticky note, the quit claim. Every piece had been laid out like breadcrumbs leading here. and now the trap had sprung. Still, a question gnawed at me. Was I doing this for justice, or just revenge? Was I teaching them a lesson, or was I punishing myself too? Because while the sold sign out front gave me satisfaction, it also meant one thing. This house, the last piece of my wife I still had, would no longer be mine either. And yet, I couldn't stop smiling. The next day, when Matt and Kayla drove up with Kayla's grandmother in tow, maybe to pressure me, maybe to guilt me, they didn't even make it to the door. They froze at the curb, staring at the bold red sticker plastered across the sign. Sold. Kayla's mouth fell open, Matt went pale, and I stood behind the curtain, coffee in hand, whispering to myself, checkmate. The morning after the sold sign went up, I woke to the sound of a car door slamming outside. I pulled the curtain just enough to see Matt and Kayla standing in the snow, staring at that sticker like it had been carved into their foreheads. Kayla was pacing, arms crossed tight, her breath fogging in the air. Matt just stood frozen, hands buried in his coat pockets. I sipped my Folgers and let the silence stretch. For the first time in years, I felt a strange calm, a kind of power I hadn't realized I still had. By noon, my phone buzzed. 2 full-price offers had already landed. Doug texted, "Cash buyer ready. Earnest money wired today." Less than 24 hours, and my so-called dead-weight house was worth more than their entire savings account. That evening, Matt stormed in without knocking. His boots tracked snow across the hardwood, the same floors I'd refinished myself with a rented sander from Menards 15 years ago. "Dad, you can't sell this place." "What about Lily? What about us?" I set down my coffee. "You mean what about you?" "Don't drag my granddaughter into this mess." Kayla followed behind him, carrying a Schlager lock set still in the Menards bag. Her face was twisted with fury. "We were just trying to help you." "You can't handle this place on your own?" I almost laughed. "Funny. Helping me by plotting to kick me out?" I pointed at the Ring doorbell camera. "Don't forget, I heard everything." Her eyes darted to Matt, then back to me. She didn't know the camera had already uploaded the audio of their little plan to my cloud account. Later that night, I heard rattling at the front door. I checked the feed on my phone. There they were, trying to change the locks. I hit record. My pulse thudded, but I stayed calm. Called Appleton PD's non-emergency line. Told them I had a no trespass letter on file and video proof. 20 minutes later, 2 officers showed up, asked Matt and Kayla to step away, and reminded them they had no legal claim to the property. The shame on my son's face cut deep, but the anger in Kayla's eyes made the wound sting less. The next morning, the sold sign had a new sticker slapped across it. "Closing in 7 days." Doug's truck idled at the curb as he waved. "Fastest deal I've seen in years," he shouted. "Congrats, John." That night, Matt tried a softer approach, sat at the kitchen table, head in his hands. "Dad, please." "Kayla and we thought we could make this work better for everyone. She said if we refinanced, we'd have more money for Lily. I went along with it. I didn't mean—" His voice cracked. For a moment, the father in me wanted to forgive. But then I remembered the sticky note, the quitclaim email, the way they whispered about kicking me out like I was a stray dog. My jaw hardened. "I offered you kindness, Matt," I said. "I would have helped with rent. I even thought about giving you this place one day. But you and Kayla couldn't wait. You wanted it now. Well, now it's gone. For all of us." He looked at me, broken, and still part of me hurt just as much as he did. Meanwhile, Kayla wasn't backing down. Word spread in the neighborhood Facebook group after Doug posted about the quick sale. Someone leaked the Ring doorbell. Clip. Neighbors who once waved politely started whispering. At her leasing office job, HR called her in for a conduct review. In small-town Wisconsin, reputation is currency, and hers was evaporating fast. By midweek, I signed the closing documents. Cash deal. Clean and final. I arranged a rent-back period, 2 weeks to pack and move to a condo across town. I boxed up my wife's photo albums, her old Packers jerseys, even the chipped Navy mug I used every morning. Every item reminded me that home wasn't just drywall and shingles. The day the buyer's wire transfer cleared, I sat in that emptying house and felt both grief and satisfaction. Grief that the last physical piece of my marriage was slipping away. Satisfaction that I had ripped the rug out from under two people who thought they could play me like a fool. That night, as I locked the door for what might be the last time, headlights swept across the driveway. Matt and Kayla again. They didn't knock this time. They just sat in the car, watching the sold sign glow in the streetlight, their faces pale behind the glass. I whispered to myself, "You wanted me out? Well, now you're out too, but the game wasn't finished yet." Because what I'd set in motion had consequences none of us had seen coming. And the next phone call I got proved it. The call came on a Wednesday night, just as I was sealing the last box of photo albums. A woman's voice, polite but firm. "Mr. Whitman, this is HR from River Glen Properties. We'd like to ask you about an incident involving your daughter-in-law, Kayla." I sat down hard on the couch. They explained they'd been sent the Ring doorbell footage. Kayla caught on camera trying to change the locks at a house that wasn't hers. In her role as leasing manager, she was supposed to safeguard tenants and uphold trust. This behavior, the HR rep said carefully, compromises her position. By Friday, Kayla was suspended without pay, pending termination. Her spotless corporate image was gone overnight. Small town, big ripples. Word spread fast. She'd tried to evict her own father-in-law illegally. Matt showed up later that day, eyes red, voice shaking. "Dad, she lost her job. The Explorer payments, daycare for Lily. We're drowning. Please, can't you talk to them? Just tell them it was a misunderstanding. I wanted to feel sorry for him. And in some corner of my heart, I did. But another part of me, the part that had listened to them plot my eviction over Thanksgiving turkey, remembered how little mercy they'd planned to show me. "I didn't make her change those locks, son," I said quietly. "She did that herself." The silence between us was colder than the snow outside. By Monday, the sale had closed. $349,900 wired clean into my account. I took a modest one-bedroom condo in Menasha. Ground floor, no stairs, easier for winters. Not the house my wife and I built, but a place I could call mine, on my own terms. The ripple effects kept rolling. The neighborhood group where Doug had posted the sold sign became a battlefield. Some neighbors defended me. It's his house, his right. Others clucked about family loyalty. But the video of Kayla with that lock set left little room for sympathy. She became a pariah, even at church. Matt, he tried to stand tall, but you could see the cracks. Without Kayla's job, they fell behind on rent at the new apartment. Friends who once admired their plans now whispered about greed and betrayal. My son, the boy I once carried on my shoulders at Lambeau Field, was learning that reputation isn't built in a day, but it can collapse in one. And yet I didn't slam the door on him. Christmas Eve, I dropped a Target gift card in the mail for Lily, along with a framed photo of me and her grandma from 1996, standing in front of that maple tree. I wanted her to know family could mean love, not just property and fights. Then came the twist I hadn't seen coming. A week after I moved, the new buyers sent me a letter. Tucked inside was a check, not huge, just $5,000, with a note. "We appreciate how well you kept this home. Use this for your granddaughter." They'd heard pieces of the story from Doug, and they wanted to honor the man who'd built the place up. I held that check in my hands, stunned. The house I thought I'd lost forever, given me one final gift. Matt came by soon after. No Kayla this time. He looked smaller, like the fight had drained out of him. He didn't ask for money. He just asked if he could bring Lily by to see me at the condo. I said yes, because despite everything, she's innocent in all this, and maybe, just maybe, my son still had a chance to rebuild what he almost burned to the ground. The truth? Selling that house didn't just free me from their betrayal. It freed me from the weight of pretending everything was fine. It reminded me that respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you demand, even if it costs you the walls around you. Looking back, the lesson is simple but sharp. You can survive losing a house, but you can't survive losing yourself. I chose myself. And for the first time in years, I can finally breathe. Have you ever been in a situation where family turned on you over money or property? I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if this story hit you in any way, stay around. We've got more real stories to share. Sometimes telling them out loud is the only way to heal.